So hi, welcome to our first digital learning, distance learning, continuous learning activity. I wanted to show you this chart first so you know that I did this and figured it out, but you'll remember that this is our Math Champs board and trying to decide if your class wins or not. So take a look, pause, and see if you can figure out how well your class did. Seriously, pause the video, look at these fractions, and decide who won. Did you really pause? All right, so let's take a look. Hopefully you realize that it was really, really close. First hour, second hour, and fourth hour were all within a tenth or so of a point. So the winner was fourth hour, with just a little bit more tickets per student than second hour, who had just a little bit more tickets per hour than first hour. So congratulations. Sorry that we can't do our normal treats, but well done. Three classes right there all together. Love it. So we're going to start with, whoops, that is not what I wanted to do. We're going to start with the lesson in Block 5, Topic 1. So there is an anchor video for those of you who haven't had a chance to watch this. When you get to Block 5, you will. It's one of my favorites. And let's just review what we were doing before spring break. You'll remember that before spring break, we learned how to build, compare, and add fractions using fraction pieces. And you really got the hang of thirds and sixths and twelfths and fourths and eighths, and that it took whatever the denominator is, it takes that many of a piece to make a one whole. If you look at the fractions on the screen, notice what happens to the denominator when the fraction piece gets smaller. So as we go from thirds to sixths to twelfths, the yellow to the orange to the green, the denominator gets larger, thirds, sixths, twelfths, but then you'll notice what happens to the piece. The piece size gets smaller. And with what we're going to do, that's going to be a really important thing for you to notice. The larger the denominator, the smaller the piece. And the way I like to think of it is, if I had one birthday cake and I cut it into 3 equal pieces, they would be huge. But if I had to cut that same cake into 12 pieces, it would be smaller. And if I had to cut those 12 pieces, that same cake into 24 pieces, it would be even smaller. Today you're going to learn how to compare two fractions without using fraction pieces, okay? We're going to use some of those concepts that you've developed without needing the fraction pieces. So I mentioned in the video earlier that these instructional videos are available to you. You'll go back to your home screen for Math 180, pick media, M-video, Block 5, and then look for what it says right here. Highlighter. Compare fractions with common denominators, with common features, and I can't write on that. And you can watch that if it's been a long time since you've done this lesson, or if you haven't done it yet on the computer. But we're going to dive right on in. You already know how to compare fractions using fraction pieces. Let's look at a comparison strategy we can use when both fractions are unit fractions. So in our vocabulary, you'll remember that a unit fraction has a numerator of 1. So these are unit fractions. So basically what we've got is we've got one of the 1/6 pieces and we've got one of the 1/8 pieces. And if you stop and think about that idea that I gave you based on cake, the 6th is taking that one cake and cutting it into 6 pieces. The 8th is taking that same size cake and cutting it into 8 equal pieces. And thinking about which one would be larger and which one would be smaller. Well, If I cut it into 8 pieces, those 8 pieces are going to be smaller, just like you can see here with your fraction pieces. The 8th is smaller than the 6th. So we would put in the greater than sign, showing that 1/6 is greater than 1/8. This strategy is known as the unit fraction strategy. And when you use this strategy, you're simply looking at the denominators. It uses the denominators. The more pieces, the smaller they have to be. Okay, this is the unit fraction strategy. Another strategy could be used for this fraction, this comparison, 3/4 and 3/8. Now let's compare the fractions with the same numerator or a common numerator. Both of these have 3. Okay? Don't know why I can't write on it, but so I have 3 pieces that are the size of a 1/4, and I have 3 pieces that are size of 1/8. So you have to stop and think, which is bigger, which is smaller. If I take that cake and cut it into 4 equal pieces, or I cut it into 8 equal pieces, how are those sizes going to compare? Well, if I cut it into 4 pieces, those are much larger pieces. I can have 3 bigger pieces or 3 smaller pieces. And I know that 3 bigger pieces would have to be greater than 3 smaller pieces. And we can check that with our fraction pieces. But remember, the goal of this is to not use those fraction pieces. The goal is to look at the numerators, look at the denominators, and reason it through on your own. The strategy we're using here is called common numerator. We look at these with common numerator, and you think about the denominator. You use the denominator to make your decision. Okay? Think about the size of those pieces. So this is the common numerator strategy. And then we've got one more strategy as well. We've got 3/12 and 5/12. We'll compare these fractions. They have the same denominator. Now this means that the pieces are exactly the same size. So you focus in here on the numerator. We could even get rid of the 12ths because that's the same. 3 is 3 larger or smaller than 5. 3 is smaller than 5. This is known as the common denominator strategy. When you have a common denominator, you focus and use the numerator to make your decision. 3 is less than 5. So I can drag up 3/12. Glad they didn't do too many of these. We all know how much fun this is to do. And you can see that 3/12 is less than 5/12. So now we're going to practice one together. If you have your book, you can open your book to page 6, your new books. I'll get your old books to you if you want them. If you don't have your books, just jot down 1/4 and 1/2. What's nice about these videos is that you can pause the video, go get paper, sharpen a pencil, whatever you need, and then come back to it. If you're working a problem, I'd really like for you to pause the video, try it on your own, and then come back and check your work. So we're going to compare 1/4 and 1/2. Remember, we have 3 strategies. We have unit fraction, we have common numerator, and we've got common denominator. So when you look at these, what do you have? I can hear some of you answering me in my head, just depending on what class you're in. So absolutely, these, I think you could call them either one of these. They both have a common numerator, they're 1, and because that numerator is 1, that makes this a unit fraction. If that's the case, look at the denominator. Okay, think about it. we've got a cake or a candy bar cut into 4 equal pieces or 2 equal pieces. Where is the bigger piece? The bigger piece is with the 1/2 cut into 2. Now, a problem we've had with this before is these symbols. So remember, the pointy end goes to the little one, the wide end goes to the bigger. If it's the other way and it's the greater than side, that wide end goes to the big and the smaller end goes to the little. The strategy we just used was either unit fraction or common numerator. Oh, I can't spell. All right, you know what I mean. It should look like this. There you go. Okay, there's a second one in number 1. Jot down 5/6 and 5/12 and think about it, and then we'll check it together. So when you look at this one, we've got 2 5s at the top. Whoa, not what I wanted. We have a common numerator. So that means we consider the denominators. Which is larger, 6 or 12ths? 6th is larger. So 5/6 would be larger than 5/12. So we can check it with the fraction pieces and see that that is correct. One final one. You notice here we have denominators that are the same. That gives us the common denominator strategy. With the common denominator strategy, we focus on the numerators. We don't even have to worry about the denominators because the pieces are the same size. And 4 is less than 5. That can be checked by using the pieces. And you can see that that's absolutely the case. 4/6 is less than 5/6. So these are the 3 problems on number 2 on page 6 in your book. What I'd like for you to do is to write these down, try them on your own, pause the screen, and then come back and check it, please. So pause the screen, jot them down, compare these, and then move on. So seriously now, have you really worked these? I don't want to reveal the answers until. What we're working on today is comparing 2 fractions with common features, either common numerators or common denominators. So here are the answers. I hope you tried it ahead of time. So the first one, we have a common numerator or the unit fraction strategy. That means we need to focus on the denominators, 16ths or 12ths. If I cut that cake into 12 pieces, they're bigger pieces than if I cut that cake into 16. The second one, you've got common numerators. Both of them have 3s. So we focus in on the denominators. I can cut my cake into 16 pieces or 8 pieces. If I cut it into 8 equal pieces, those are bigger pieces than those 16ths. And then finally, the last one, we have a common denominator. That means we simply look at the numerator, and 5 is less than 7. So you have more problems to practice on the quizzes. Please go to the quizzes now. Think these through using these 3 strategies. Hopefully you've got some notes to look back at, and I'll check your results. In our next session together on Wednesday, we'll go over those problems, and hopefully I can answer any questions. And then I'll ask you to work on Math 180 during your elective work time on Wednesday. Take care. Be safe. I'll be back on Wednesday. Bye.